This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. Welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard. It's exciting to be with you today. Today, we've got a really cool topic that I think you're really going to enjoy. I think you'll resonate with as well. I think most people out there in the workforce can relate to this. Today, we're talking about how being the dumbest person in the room can take you places you never even thought were possible. That's right. How being the dumbest person in the room can help you be more successful. Who would have thought? Being dumb could actually do that, but it can if you're smart about being dumb. So we're going to break that down and help you understand what that really means and how to leverage that to help you, your team, your organization be more successful. So I've got a question for you. You ever worked in a place where there was always somebody that had to be the smartest person in the room? They talk the most in all of the meetings. It could be a boss, it could be an executive, it could be the business owner, it could be some subject matter expert on the team, it could be really anybody, but they are always the smartest one in the room. They're the ones that, are driving and navigating conversations. Sometimes they can talk the loudest, sometimes they can talk the most. Sometimes they are the most argumentative. Sometimes they are the ones that will argue and fight, and they want to be heard. They want to implement their thoughts, their ideas, their solutions more than other people that may be in the room. Have you ever been in a situation in the workplace where you've experienced something like that? Give you a second to think about that. Or, got another question for you. Is it possible you might fit that description? Have you ever been in a situation where you were the smartest person in the room, intentionally or unintentionally, right? Sometimes you might be the smartest person in the room. Sometimes you may not be. But have you found yourself in a situation where you were the most passionate, you were the most adamant about something, and you were driving that to where you may not be listening or understanding other people's perspectives? You are driven to do what is on your mind to do. Either way, this is for you. Sometimes the smartest people in the room aren't necessarily the smartest people in the room. And here's, some ways we're going to navigate through that. I'm going to give you 5 ways you can deal with that. 5 ways you can be the dumbest person in the room and get optimal results. So, a few years ago, well, more than a few, roughly about 10 years ago, I was in an organization with somebody that had to be the smartest person in the room. I ran a company, the chairman of the company, the owner of the company was literally a genius, literally a very intelligent person, very smart person. He knew his product better than anybody. In fact, he created it. He owned it. It was his baby. He lived, breathed, ate, slept, drank the things that surrounded his invention. And we would get into meetings, we'd have conversations, and man, he would get excited. He'd get passionate, and he would get riled up when people would challenge him. Like, why are we doing it this way? Isn't this sending a different message by doing it this way versus this way? Why are we trying to do too many things over here? Why aren't we trying to focus on the one thing here? Like, no matter what questions he may get, or what perspectives people were bringing to the table, he would get he'd get worked up at times. Not all the time, but quite often he'd get worked up. And he would come in one day with really great ideas. Let's go this way. Let's go do this. Let's go, and here's why. And yeah, it was almost like he just needed to feel validated. He just needed to be heard. He needed people to look at him and listen to him like he is smart. He was trying to be the smartest guy in the room. And sometimes he was. Sometimes he understood things about the business, he understood things about the product that other people didn't quite connect all those dots yet. And he can clearly articulate things in a very strategic manner, but at the mercy of other people that have other perspectives that were critical. And that caused problems. That caused issues because people felt like it had to be his way or the no way. Like, why should I put my ideas forward? He's just going to shoot them down. Or he'll say something in a meeting and agree that we're going to do something, and then a day or two later go back and change it behind the scenes without telling people. Being the smartest one in the room is great. We all want to try to achieve excellence. We all want to show up and be our best. We all want to maximize our potential. And some days you might just be the one guy or gal with the right answer that solves a big problem. But when it is a problem, is when you show up time and time and time and time again trying to be the smartest person in the room. That usually causes some issues. So let's kind of peel that back a little bit. Like, what's really going on there when people are trying too hard to be the smartest person in the room? Why why are they doing that, right? Why do they feel they need to always shine brighter? Why do they always have to be the brightest bulb shining in the room? And there's some reasons for that. Does it mean that they're really bad people or nasty people or selfish people or greedy people or just, a dictator kind of a person where they just want to do what they want to do? No, they're normally really good people. They just struggle with processing their thoughts, communicating their thoughts, and recognizing and leveraging the other people around them, the other ideas, the other opportunities, the other value proposition components that other people bring to the table. Sometimes they're just too close to it and they just need to back away. And so that creates that situation, right? But a lot of times with people that always have to be the smartest person in the room, it's about insecurities. They're trying to prove something to others, but really they're trying to prove it to themselves. It's about insecurities. Insecurity about their own intelligence, and insecurity about somebody maybe put them down or dismissed them or didn't think they were smart enough or good enough. Maybe it was a teacher, maybe it was a coworker, maybe it was somebody that doubted them, and that just ignited something in them where, like, I'm going to prove you wrong and everybody else wrong. That will not happen again. So I'm going to come across really strong in places where I'm proving what I bring to the table. I'm proving that I'm right. I'm proving that I did the research. I did the homework. I've got the data. I've got the facts, right? Sometimes with people, it's a control thing. You ever met anybody that was trying to be too controlling of things, on a regular basis, right? Sometimes people that are trying to be the smartest person in the room, it's about control. Well, this particular person that I worked with, he was a great guy. He was a smart guy, but boy, it was his baby. And he really struggled with letting go of control, letting other people do things with his product and the services that we put around that to make it even better than what he even thought was possible. And he thinks on a pretty big level. Sometimes it's about control. Sometimes it's about ego. It's about pride. Some people actually do think they are smarter than everybody. This particular person that I worked with that had to be the smartest guy in the room all the time, he actually had a PhD in a very technical specialized area. That did allow him to be smarter in many ways than a lot of people, but not in every way. He was really smart about the science behind the product, the science behind the technology, and the intellectual property that made that system so great. But he wasn't the best at marketing. He wasn't the best at project management. He wasn't the best at customer service. He wasn't the best at other things that surrounded his brainchild. There was ego in there. There was pride in there, pride of ownership. There's a lot of people out there that have pride and ownership, whether it's a product, whether it's an idea, whether it's some innovative new technology, or whether it's, a solution to a problem, whether it's building a PowerPoint to solve world hunger. There's pride and ownership. And sometimes we can get a little too close to that and let our pride get in the way of excellence. For some people, they need to be the smartest person in the room because that's just how they operate. That's just how they think. And being the smartest person in the room means they talk a lot. It means they're talking out loud. Some people just need an audience. They need to brainstorm. They need to get a lot of their thoughts and ideas out in front of other people and bounce that around the room because it helps them sort out their thoughts. It helps them organize their thoughts, helps them articulate things and think through it and talk through it. I work with a family owned business, and there's a lady, a mom, that runs the business, been running it for about 30 years, very successful, just phenomenal family. And that's how she is. She talks a lot and she talks fast. She talks over people. And it's not that she's a control freak. It's not that she doesn't care about other people or listen to other people. She just thinks differently. She thinks very strategically, very fast. She can connect a lot of dots and process a lot of information very, very quickly. A lot of people don't have that capability, but she does. She can understand the whole business dynamic in certain thought processes within like a 5-minute period. She can solve a lot of problems very fast, but she also dominates conversations all the time. She will cut people off all the time. And it's not that she's being mean and rude. She's a great Christian lady that cares about people. She just needs to think out loud. Talking a lot is just her mind listening to herself talk helps her think and process and slow things down and organize her thoughts because she thinks so fast and so differently than other people. And people mistake, oh, she's just domineering. It's just, people that work here, just, you have to be a yes person to work for this person because they're going to dominate it. Well, yeah, maybe it comes across that way. Um, in many cases, it has. But if you understand the thought process of this person and how they think and how this is just a way they think, it's just more um, verbalized than other ways. then you kind of understand why this is happening, why people do these types of things. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's just there are reasons for it. And I think when you're in the room with one of these kind of people that has to be the smartest person in the room on a regular basis, understand what's driving that, because that can help that person. And if it's you doing it, this can help you understand why you're doing that and help you think differently and leverage more people around you. Going from the smartest person to the room to the dumbest person in the room. And in this situation, being the dumbest person in the room is usually the more advantageous person in the room. But these types of things, regardless of the reason, people that always have to be the smartest person in the room, there's fallout from that. It causes problems. Certainly with perceptions. It may not be true. These things may not be real, but if there's even a perception of somebody having an ego, a perception of somebody that's never going to listen to anybody, and it's going to be their way or the highway, that has potentially catastrophic effects on the organization and the people in it. Some of the things that comes out of this, some of the problems this causes is, number one, it erodes trust. And if you erode trust, if you're the smartest person in the room and you are overbearing and you overruling people and you are questioning people and dominating things more, then you're sending a message to those people that I don't trust you. I don't really want to hear what you have to say. It's not important to me because I don't trust it. I trust myself more than you. Is that what you want? Because if you erode trust, you pretty much eroded everything else. If you don't have trust, you really don't have anything. You can't build anything on something that's not fundamentally based in trust. Another problem is it shuts people down. They're not excited or willing to go to meetings. They're not excited or willing to meet with other people and talk and share ideas and be vulnerable, to put even goofy ideas out there, brainstorming, throw some spaghetti at the wall kind of stuff. Like, people will not be vulnerable and put themselves out there. They will shut down. They will not make themselves look bad. They will not inject themselves and argue and fight with other people to try to they will just shut down. And when people shut down, you're spending time and money for people being the organization to not be productive. That's ineffective. That's inefficient. What person wants to go to work? What person's excited to go to work where they feel like they're going to get shut down every day? Like nobody wants to do that. Another problem this causes is confusion and frustration. Um, the smartest people in the room aren't are very seldom the people that know how to implement things down to the front lines level. A lot of times, if you notice, with the smartest people in the room, they are theoretical, they are conceptual, they know enough to outline a plan, they know enough to cover some key components and bases, but they seldom know everything they need to know about all the different dynamics involved to execute that all the way down to the frontline level. And so when the smartest people in the room are trying too hard to push things and do things their way, the experts in finance, the experts in HR, the experts in technology, the experts in logistics, the experts in whatever part of the company that may be connected to this, are confused. Why are we doing it this way? This isn't the best practice way. You don't understand, my functional area to the level I do. And they get frustrated. They don't feel like they're being valued. Um, they don't feel like it's holistically being addressed. All right. Another thing, it stifles growth. It stifles growth with the individuals. If you're the smartest person in the room, then how much room is left for other people to grow, to think, to expand, to challenge each other, to um, support each other, work closer together? When you're the smartest person in the room, you're alienating the other people, which stifles their ability to think bigger, to figure things out for themselves, allow them to go deeper in their area of expertise to bring the greatest value to the table that they can bring. And lastly, value. People need to feel valued. The top three reasons why people leave the workplace, either it is or it's perceived to be a bad leader at the top, a perception of a bad culture, or the perception or reality of they're not valued. They're not appreciated. People aren't seeing the things that they're good at, they're smart at, the hours they're putting into things, the hard work they're dedicating, the sacrifices they're making. They feel less valued. When people feel less valued, when they don't feel like they're maximizing their potential, they're not being challenged and motivated an equal member of the team, because every somebody or other a group of somebodies are always the smartest one in the room all the time, you're pushing people away. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're limiting yourself. If you're the smartest person in the room, that means it's all about you all the time. Well, what happens when you're sick? What happens when you're on vacation? What happens if you get hit by a bus? What happens if you experience anything that takes you out of the workplace for any period of time? You've created a single source of failure around you because you're the smartest person in the room all the time. And everybody's depending on you to give them all the answers because you're always the smartest one in the room. And if anything happens to that one person, things come to a halt. How are you going to be competitive doing that? How are you going to keep your company growing and accelerating at the rate you need to meet the consumer demand of the future, which is continuing to increase and increase and increase over time? How is it you're the smartest person in the room causing the dumbest effect on your organization? That doesn't make sense, does it? Well, there's good news. I've got 5 reasons, 5 ways that being the dumbest person in the room will pay off in the long run. Being the dumbest person in the room will help you be more successful. Being the dumbest person in the room will help you and your people and your business flourish better than ever. Doesn't make sense. Oh, being dumb helps us be more successful. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean you're actually dumb and you're not making good decisions. Most people kind of know what to do. It's how they do it. All right. It's not about you. All right. So if you are a person that is always the smartest person in the room, or you work with somebody that's always the smartest person in the room, here is a very direct message for you. It is not about you. When you make it about you, it's not about other things like the greater good of the company, like the prosperity and the development and the success of everybody in it, because it's always centered around you. It's not about you. As a leader, you should always be proactive. You should always be 2 and 3 steps ahead, but not so far ahead where people can't see you, where they can't understand you, they can't follow you, they can't execute things that you need to be executed. When you're the smartest person in the room all the time, you're getting way too far ahead of other people. They're not on the same wavelength with you. They're not understanding what you're saying and why you're thinking that way. You're losing them in the process, I guarantee it. If you're always the smartest person in the room, you are losing people. You're creating a gap between you and other people. And when that happens, and the followers that are following the leader, who may be the smartest person in the room all the time, can no longer see the leader, understand the leader, and know what to do for the leader. And again, I'm connecting this to from a leadership perspective at this point. At that point, you have no followers. When you have no followers, you're not a leader. Therefore, things aren't going to go well. Followers always need to be in proximity of the leadership. Sometimes when you get too far out in front of them and you're the smartest person in the room, you create that issue, right? Reasons why being the dumbest person in the room can help you be even better. So here's number one. It prevents learning. You're probably not the smartest person in the room in reality. You may be smarter about one or two things in the conversation, but you're not the smartest person in the room on everything. I would dare say, think about everybody in the room, and they're all the smartest people in the room. But if you are the smartest person in the room, it prevents learning because people don't have a bigger conversation. If they're listening to the only smartest person in the room, and you're dominating that conversation, you are preventing learning. You're preventing people from understanding things from other people in the room because they are the smartest people in the room based on what they bring to the table, based on their experience, their expertise, which is probably different than everybody else. And you want to capitalize on that as a leader. But when you're the smartest person in the room, you're preventing that conversation. You're preventing that deeper level discussion, brainstorming, innovation, whatever that may be. And you're preventing that learning. It's a very siloed and singular event at that point, and everybody's just there to take notes, follow instructions, and just go do what the boss tells them to do. All right. It doesn't allow people to think differently, doesn't allow people to learn from each other. I coach people in the medical space quite often. And, who some of the best hospital or healthcare organization CEOs are? They're not doctors. They're healthcare administrators, healthcare management. And there's a stark difference. Does the CEO of a healthcare organization, can they perform brain surgery? Can they do, foot surgeries? Can they diagnose cancer? Can they do all the medical things that all their doctors and nurses and specialists can do? Can they do orthopedics? Can they do x-rays? Can they do MRIs? Can they do medications? The CEOs that run healthcare organizations, they are not experts on everything that goes on in the healthcare is complicated. The human body is very, very complicated. But the best CEOs in healthcare are the ones that understand the business of healthcare. Cash flow, finances, accounting, human resources, how to leverage technology to augment and leverage technology innovation to do breakthroughs in medicine, right? They know how to administer and manage and lead a bunch of different people in a healthcare organization. You go do an assessment of a healthcare organization. There's pretty much everybody from every walk of life in it, janitors to brain surgeons to nurses to cardio people to x-ray people, you name it. Now, there's a reason why they don't put doctors in charge of hospitals, because doctors are very specialized. If they're, an orthopedic surgeon or an orthopedic doctor, if they're an overall, general physician, yeah, they know a lot about the human body. They know how to treat people and care for people, but they are not good at running the business of running a healthcare organization, because you have to make money. You have to know how to bill people and invoice people and deal with insurance companies and move through the minutia that you need to move through. There's a lot of compliance, government regulations you got to be compliant with, right? Hiring people, certifying people. It's complicated. The smartest people in healthcare aren't the CEOs. Because the smartest people are the practitioners, because they're highly, highly specialized. It takes them, 10 plus years to become a doctor. More than that if they're in a specialty, right? They are the smartest people in the room, but the CEO is making the decisions. So just think of a CEO of a healthcare organization went in there trying to tell a brain surgeon how to do brain surgery, or what technology you should use to make brain surgery better. That's not going to work. So why would it work in your organization? All right. Number 2, being the dumbest person in the room sparks creativity. Different ways to solve problems, brainstorming, being innovative, thinking outside the box, creating major breakthroughs, right? Like when you really want something special to happen, be the dumbest person in the room and let the experts bring it to the table. Let them present the things. Let them mash together and figure out comprehensive solutions as a team. To be the dumbest person in the room means you're a great facilitator, putting the right people in the room in the first place, teeing up the topic, teeing up the problem, teeing up the challenge, prioritizing that and letting people figure that out. So being the dumbest person in the room means you don't talk very much. You create an environment where people can learn, people can grow, people can listen, people can hear things they may not have heard before, think about things in a different way. They can be creative. They have permission to bring things to the table that are powerful, that may or may not even work, and they're not going to be penalized or looked down upon if they bring something to the table. There's no such thing as a bad idea, right? You ever heard of that before? That's the kind of environment you need to be. Being the dumbest person in the room, especially if you're a leader, enables these things to happen. Number 3, being the dumbest person in the room and allowing the other people in the room to do what they're great at. Make sure you don't miss something. Make sure you minimize mistakes. You turn over every rock. You look at everything from every perspective. And you make sure all the right people in the room have had a chance to talk. Being the dumbest person in the room and enabling everybody from all walks of life to put their perspective out there allows you to have a comprehensive view, not just a siloed view, not just a skewed view, a holistic view of the entire situation. So you are able to make the best possible decisions and minimize mistakes. As a leader, you need to make sure you minimize mistakes and minimize the risk. That allows you to do that. Number 4, being the dumbest person in the room means everybody has skin in the game, means everybody has shared responsibility. It means everybody is accountable. If you are the smartest person in the room and you're driving everything, the only person accountable is you. How's that going to work? Do you ever see a head coach in football be the one that's the only one that's accountable, the only one that knows the playbook, the only one that knows what to do when they get in a pinch in the middle of a game? No. Everybody on the team, every player and every position on the team, from the head coach down to the defensive and offensive and special teams coaches, down to the individual players, to the kickers, to whoever, everybody has a role. Everybody knows what part they play and what they need to do to execute. There's shared responsibility, there's shared accountability. And when you can disseminate that accountability to other people, then you take the responsibility off one person who's always the smartest person in the room. If the smartest person in the room is usually the most stressed out person in the room, you ever notice that? Things are just never happy, always looking to do something, always looking to change something. The smartest person in the room is the most stressful person in the room usually because they feel like everything's on top of them. They have to figure things out. Every decision surrounds it. Like when you're the dumbest person in the room and you've delegated this and you've shared this and everybody gets equal skin in the game to help contribute to a greater outcome. Everybody's accountable. Everybody feels valued. You disseminate that stress to everybody on the team. So if everybody has just a little bit of stress versus one person having all the stress, well, you've created, a great environment. It gives people a sense of purpose. If you're the smartest person in the room all the time, you're the only guy or gal with a purpose. If you're the dumbest person in the room, that means everybody's got a purpose. Everybody's getting fulfilled. Everybody's excited to come to work. Everybody is part of the solution. You're part of a team. Everybody needs to feel important. Everybody needs to feel needed. If you're the smartest person in the room, people aren't going to feel needed because you've solved all the problems for everybody every day of the week. They're asking themselves, why am I in this meeting? Why am I here doing X, Y, and Z? They've got all the answers. They don't need me. I want to go where I'm needed. Number 5, concept of iron sharpens iron. Smarter people challenge everybody around them. When you're the smartest person in the room and you are doing the swinging of the sword of the iron, how are you and how are others sharpening each other and making each other better? How are you noticing gaps and issues in areas where something may not be rock solid? Like, how do you, if you're the smartest person in the room all the time in that environment, how are you guys sharpening each other's iron, making each other better, polishing each other up, challenging each other out of your comfort zone? Being the dumbest person in the room enables that to happen, creates a culture of competition, and competition equals excellence. Competition equals excellence. So if everybody comes to the room and everybody's sharpening each other's iron off of somebody else's iron, meaning they're competing and they're challenging each other and they're teasing each other and picking and having fun, things go a lot easier. Things go a lot faster. Being the dumbest person in the room means other people get more opportunities. And the more opportunities you give people to succeed, to maximize their potential, or even learn some lessons to be developed, even misstep, even fail a little bit. Failure is not necessarily a bad thing. Failure can be a positive thing as long as you fail the right way and you and you get back up and don't stay down from the failure, and you learn from the failure, and you adapt from the failure. So as a leader, your job is to motivate people, inspire people to do things. Your job is to get people out of their comfort zones. It's to see things in people they don't see in themselves. It's to get them to understand things they may not understand, or to do something they don't want to do, to the point where they sell it as their own idea. Leaders grow new leaders. They're not scared of other people coming up underneath them, taking their jobs and making them, not look as good. A lot of leaders who are always the smartest person in the room are always the smartest person in the room because they feel a need to protect their turf and not allow somebody else from underneath them to come in and make them look bad because they maybe are smarter or better or more efficient at doing something, right? And so your job as a leader is not to be the smartest person in the room, it's to be the dumbest person in the room, and just focus on developing those people, figuring out what they need, tapping into their potential, tapping into their strengths, and helping them be the next thing they need to be. And lastly, leaders set people up for success. You bring the smart people together. You give them tools. You give them resources. You give them a playground to play in with some boundaries where they can really go all out, be the best that they can be. Your job is to create an environment to make sure the smartest people in the room are able to continuously be the smartest people in the room. And you get out of the way. Set it up and get out of the way. Being the dumbest person in the room means you set a meeting agenda. You're proactive. You're organized. And when you bring people together, there's some structure in place to where they're running the company. They're telling you what's going on. They're telling you about the problems, and they're telling you the solution to the problem versus you telling them. Who knows more about what's really going on in the organization? You, the one person, if you're a leader at the top, knowing everything going on all the time? I doubt it. Or is it the people in the trenches who are the experts, who are leading these sections and departments? They are, of course. So set it up where they are informing you. They are coming to you. You are facilitating those types of things. As a leader, being the dumbest person in the room means you are setting the stage for an end result. You're laying out the what. And it's everybody else's job, all the other smart people that you've created, to figure out the how, provide recommendations, solutions, options. And so I'm going to kind of leave you with a quote from Steve Jobs from Apple. It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. It doesn't make sense to hire really smart people and then just go tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And being the dumbest person in the room doesn't mean you're dumb or you don't know what's going on or you're naive or ignorant or just unplugged, unhinged. It means you are engaged. It does mean you know what's going on. Being the dumbest person in the room means everybody else knows what's going on. It means they get to talk first. Being the dumbest person in the room is kind of goes back to another leadership trait. Leaders always eat last. I learned that in the military. That's one of Simon Sinek's key things he teaches as well. Leaders always eat last. Everybody eats first before the leader. If you're in a room, the dumbest person in the room always talks last. Because at that point, you've heard everybody else's inputs. You've holistically taken in information from lots of different viewpoints that may entice you to think differently than when you walked into the room in the first place. If you go in there with a certain preconceived notion or idea and you dominate the conversation, you're the smartest person in the room, you are going to miss things. Being the dumbest person in the room means asking the right questions. Well, what led us to that situation? How do we know that's the best option? How do we best deal with this situation? Being the dumbest person in the room doesn't mean you don't know good answers. It means you're leading other people to the right answers for themselves that they discover for themselves versus you telling them the right answer all the time. And boy, when you can do those things, you can really be an impactful leader in your company. It is a blessing, not a threat, to be the dumbest person in the room. So get over yourself. Quit making excuses. Let go. Enjoy the freedom of being the dumbest person in the room. And you and everybody else around you will thrive. I promise you. I've been there. I've done it. I've learned these mistakes, and I'm trying to empower you on this podcast to do those same things. Be the dumbest person in the room, and your success will be unlimited. That's it for today's show, everybody. I hope you got some really good nuggets out of this one. I think this is a very powerful way of thinking. You got any questions? You got any thoughts, concerns? Feel free to follow up. You can contact us. You can look in the show notes in any of our channels that we broadcast this podcast. Reach out anytime. Love to take your questions or thoughts, have follow-ups. Next week, we've got a really, really great show in store for you. We're talking about empowerment, how to end micromanagement and better empower decision makers to build a winning culture of the future. We're going to end micromanagement next week. You don't want to miss it. Hope you have a great week, everybody.